What's going on, everybody? RJ Ochoa here from SB Nation's bloggingtheboys.com. We hope all is well wherever you are. We hope you're happy, safe, healthy, and that you are enjoying the off season. It is Tuesday, January 5th, 2021. It is time for our season review show with regards to the 2020 Dallas Cowboys season. A campaign that did not finish the way any of us wanted it to. This is the week of the wild card round in the NFL. In fact, the super wild card round, now that there are 6 games with the addition of the third game on both days. And so the Cowboys not part of it. The Washington football team, the NFC East champions. And there are 3 types of off seasons for an NFL team. There is the offseason that follows a really great year that you didn't quite finish. You think about the way we were all feeling as Cowboys fans in the spring of 2017. The Cowboys had gone 13-3 in the first year of Dak and Zeke, and there was a lot to be excited about. Yeah, they'd lost in the playoffs, ironically, to Mike McCarthy of all people, but you feel like you're that one piece away, right? And so you go draft a Taco Charlton. That's clearly what you are missing if you're the Dallas Cowboys. And so that's one offseason. It's like a honeymoon sort of feel. Everything's gravy. Everything's going to be good from here on out. Then there is the spring of hope offseason, and that typically comes with either maybe you get a big-time player. This doesn't happen often, but you think about like the Indianapolis Colts a year ago. They get a new quarterback, not a new head coach, but they get a new quarterback, and so you think, all right, things are going to be different. The offense is going to look much better, and that doesn't necessarily have to be a quarterback. It can be, you get like a big-time free agent. Back in the day, like when Nnamdi Asum was signed with the Philadelphia Eagles, that was those Dream Team Eagles, or like when Ndamukong Suh signed with the Miami Dolphins at first. I mean, you feel like things are really happening because your team is making moves. This is going to be neither one of those for the Dallas Cowboys. This is the pissed off, I hate everything, everybody sucks offseason because you were really bad. And what is a particularly different variable that the Cowboys have to deal with here in 2021 is not only were you really bad, but people have questions about the new head coach that you just married, and you have the Dak Prescott contract situation, which is going to hover over the team again for the 3rd year in a row, which is why the Cowboys should get this done much sooner rather than later. So the Cowboys are in for a very long offseason and obviously hold the 10th overall pick in the NFL draft. We'll get there in a second. But this season, how do you go 6-10 when you're supposed to be one of the best offenses in the NFL and you're coming off of being one of the most efficient offenses in the NFL? Well, you have some injuries. And when you look back at the season from a results standpoint, it was rough. I think, obviously the Cowboys only won 2 of their first 8 games. And you look at the break point here was that week 5 game when Dak Prescott got hurt. But week 1, the Cowboys go to Los Angeles to visit the Rams, the first game in the history of SoFi Stadium. It was obviously an important thing for Jerry Jones to, be that team, whatever priority you place on that. And so the Cowboys go to SoFi Stadium and they lose. And there's the questionable non-call with Michael Gallup at the end of the game against Jalen Ramsey, and everybody's upset. And you kind of think, okay, so what? We lost to a would-be playoff team. In fact, the Rams would go on to become a playoff team. The Rams are going to visit the Seattle Seahawks this week. It's probably a difficult task for them without Jared Goff, but the Seahawks generally play down to their competition, so who knows. But then week 2 comes around, and the Cowboys have this not just win to get, because that's, and you can set your clock by this. In week 2, everybody's talking about the teams that start off 0-2. You can't start off 0-2 because so much percent of the time, teams that start off 0-2, don't go to the playoffs, and so you don't want to start off 0-2. The Cowboys and Falcons were both 0-1 entering this game, and the Cowboys, as you well know, on our YouTube stream, in fact, Chris Warner says the only game I loved was Atlanta. This was probably the peak in terms of fun of the season for the Cowboys. They beat the Falcons 40-39, the watermelon kick, the great comeback, on and on and on, the fantastic moment between Dak Prescott and Hayden Hurst. I mean, this game had everything, and this kind of renewed our hope on the season, right? We all kind of talked, and we all kind of chopped it up and said, okay, you know what? Maybe the Rams game was a fluke. They got off to a slow start, but this really shows what type of offense the Cowboys can have against these Falcons. And so a lot of us, thought, okay, they're going to Seattle. This defense is trash. That has really changed over the course of the season, by the way, they're going to be able to have success. It's going to be a shootout type of game. This game had the great Trayvon Diggs moment, certainly something to really kind of hold our hat on as Cowboys fans. Dak Prescott put up 1 billion yards, all sorts of points again. But, Russell Wilson, this was when Russell Wilson looked like the absolute front runner for MVP in the NFL. The MVP is going to be Aaron Rodgers, and Patrick Mahomes had a great season. It's going to finish in a second place to that effort. But everybody thought Russ is cooking. And so we thought, there's no way the Cowboys are going to stop Russell Wilson. And lo and behold, we were all right. So, okay, you fall to 1-2. Not ideal, Cowboys, but you still got a lot of time to turn around. And you look at it, week 4, the Cowboys just get blasted by the Cleveland Browns. I mean, just a piss-poor defensive effort. The last full game that Dak Prescott plays, Jarvis Landry threw a touchdown. Odell Beckham went off. I mean, this, you get the people that say, oh, the Browns and whatever, leaning on those old cliches. The Browns are an awesome football team. And by the way, certainly rooting for the Browns. Really tough day for them on Tuesday. It was announced that Browns head coach Kevin Stefanski, 2 staffers and 2 players, including left guard Joel Bitonio, all tested positive for COVID-19, so we're going to miss their wild card game against the Pittsburgh Steelers. That is just, for a team that hasn't been to the playoffs in forever, you hate to see that. I mean, you hate to see it to anybody, but big time bummer for the Browns. But so the Cowboys fall to 1-3, and at this point, after week 4, I do think that a lot of people were starting to lose hope, right? We were all thinking, oh God, this season's going south in a hurry. You've already lost 3 games. You're going to have to figure this out, but the NFC East is trash. So that is our lone hope. Maybe Dak can will this team to enough wins to win this sorry thing. And then the Cowboys can, have a shot. They'll be in the dance. They'll be in the tournament, and anything can happen there. And the Cowboys would go on to beat the New York Giants in week 5. However, as you know, that was the game that Dak Prescott was hurt, and the fortunes of the Cowboys changed significantly. At this point, the Cowboys were 2-3. Tony Dungy, I do think his comment was really taken, I don't say out of context, but Tony Dungy's comment about, if you didn't see it on Sunday Night Football after the Cowboys beat the Giants, Tony Dungy said that he thought that this would be a blessing in disguise for the Cowboys and that they could return to their form of running the rock and Ezekiel Elliot carrying the team, etc. That take blew up in his face. Unfortunately, Ezekiel Elliot didn't even hit 1,000 yards. Not that that is the ultimate thing. Ezekiel Elliot also missed a game due to injury for the first time in his career. We'll get to that. But this was a dark point. But okay. Cowboys coming out of this. You're 2-3. This is why we brought Andy Dalton in. This is why we lift all them weights. Let's see what we can do against the Arizona Cardinals. It was on Monday Night Football, in case you forgot. Cliff Kingsbury coming home. His great year with the Texas A&M Aggies. Orange Bowl champions, by the way, in 2012. And just blast the doors off of the Dallas Cowboys on Monday Night Football. The whole world watches. Remember the meme of the guy crying and his girlfriend or wife consoling him? This was a low moment for the Cowboys, but still, we all said, okay, you know what? You're 2-4. You got 2 games against the NFC East coming up. Anything can happen. This division is terrible, but the Cowboys went to Washington. Their offensive line decimated. At this point, we already had made our peace with the fact that Lyle Collins and Tyron Smith weren't going to really play in 2020, and lo and behold, Zach Martin has to miss this game against Washington, and so that incredible defensive front took advantage all game long, and it was never really close. Andy Dalton suffered the concussion. Ben DiNucci had to come in. It was a 25-3 loss for the Cowboys, and they were suddenly 2-5 and spiraling way out of control with no Andy Dalton. Obviously, under center, the Dallas Cowboys had to turn to Ben DiNucci, who gave it, I thought, a valiant effort. When you look at this score, 23-9 was the final in Philadelphia. I do think it's misleading. There was that inflation of a touchdown late in the game after the Ben DiNucci turnover by the Eagles, and so does that make you feel better? I don't think so. But my point is, I don't think the Eagles were that much better than the Cowboys. But if you're looking for a point of optimism, and a lot of people, the Dak doubters, are going to say, well, Dak Prescott was only 2-3 as the Cowboys starting quarterback in 2020. That's true. Dak Prescott also had what was literally one of the worst defenses to ever live in 2020. And look at this beginning slate here. The Rams are a playoff team. The Falcons, obviously not, but the Seahawks are not just a playoff team, but a division champion. The Cleveland Browns are a playoff team. 3 of the Cowboys' first 4 games of the season came against teams that would go on to make the playoffs. If you want to go further than that, 4 of their first 6 games, obviously counting the Cardinals here, not that the Cardinals made the playoffs, but they were Well, I think the Cardinals were a bit of a fraudulent team. The Cardinals, in case you forgot, the Cardinals were 5-2 following their big-time win against the Seahawks on Sunday Night Football. Their final 3 wins of the year, as they lost 6 games in parallel to that, were against the Buffalo Bills, that heroic heroic DeAndre Hopkins touchdown catch, and then they beat the Giants and the Eagles. So the Cardinals were a bit of a fraud team, but when they visited AT&T Stadium, they were hot, and I think that should be said. That is important context. But moving on to the second half of the season for the Cowboys, they were 2-6. It was a very dark time, obviously, for this team. Chris Warner says, my anger burned after week 7. Yeah, this is right around when things were getting bad, because the Cowboys did lose to the Eagles to drop to 2-6. And, at that time, the undefeated Pittsburgh Steelers showed up to AT&T Stadium. Not Ben DiNucci at quarterback for the Cowboys, and not even Andy Dalton. You might have forgotten at this point, but Garrett Gilbert started at quarterback. And this was a game, and this was a lot of fun. I know that I mentioned earlier that the Atlanta Falcons game is certainly the high point of this season. If this season was like a book, you would close it after that chapter. However, I think the peak of, I don't know, maybe not, but the peak of fun in some ways was, even though it was a loss, and talking about the post-Dak injury Cowboys, might have come against the Steelers, because this was a game where we were all just in nirvana. Because at this point, with the Cowboys, obviously being 2-6, that was like, the ultimate, we need to team tank all the way. And so when the Cowboys were kind of flirting with winning this game, people kind of abandoned that cause in the middle, because we're all human. You all want to see your team win, especially against an undefeated team. And it did feel like the Cowboys were pulling out all the stops. Remember the Cedric Wilson, crazy trickery on the punt return and things like that. And so this was fun, even though the Cowboys lost, but they fell to 2-7 entering the bye, and we had all these discussions again about whether they should tank. Is that the right thing to do, et cetera, et cetera. So they go on by, they come out of it, and Andy Dalton, who at this point not only had recovered from his concussion, but had recovered from testing positive for COVID-19 himself, the Cowboys go to Minnesota, and I know that the Vikings didn't make the playoffs. And if you listen to the SB Nation NFL show, you can hear me on there a couple of times a week where we cover the NFL as a whole. I've been caping for the Vikings this season. I really believed in the Vikings. I believe in Kirk Cousins a little bit more than most, which is maybe, it's certainly actually in totality my own fault. I thought the Vikings were an awesome team. When the Vikings were hot this year, they were a very good team. They just couldn't, be that consistent with it. And so I do value this win for the Cowboys. It was not an easy thing to go to Minnesota, especially with a 2-7 record. Everybody wanted them to tank and score over 30 points and win. That was an impressive effort. That was also the crazy CeeDee Lamb catch that we'll remember forever, probably about, maybe the highlight particular, image of his rookie season. Now, Chris says, please speak about leadership in relation to the losses. Now, obviously, the Cowboys at this point were 3-7, and this was a crazy point. I do think this kind of segues into leadership. They were 3-7, but they were squarely, like they were for really the final half of the season, squarely in the hunt for the NFC East, and that's crazy, but that's just the way the NFC East has been this season. And so we were all talking. In fact, we all sat here on our postgame show in the middle of the week on our shows, on Twitter, on Instagram, whatever. We are available on all these places, by the way. We're not going anywhere. We're going to be talking Cowboys all year long. We were talking about how it wasn't inconceivable that the Cowboys at 3-7 could win the NFC East. And so, especially riding that positive momentum from the Vikings win, that Monday after, everybody's hyped, everybody's, kind of thinking, okay, this is what it's going to ultimately be. And then tragedy strikes. Marcus Paul passes away, collapses at the Star in Frisco, and it is, and I've struggled with this all season long, using this as a data point, as an inflection point when it comes to the Cowboys season, because this is something that is so much bigger, and football is nowhere near this in terms of level of importance. But this happened to the Cowboys from a football standpoint on a short week, because they were playing the Washington football team on Thanksgiving Day. And on a short week, obviously your week is condensed as an NFL team. And so when you are playing on a Thursday, you're going from Sunday to Thursday, you're one true total normal day-ish of practice is Tuesday. And that was the day that this, horrible tragedy occurred. And so the Cowboys, again, from a football standpoint only, did not even get to practice the week that they were getting ready to face Washington. They obviously were dealing with a lot of emotions and with the tragedy and with the loss of their coach. And so, Mike McCarthy, one of the things I really appreciated from Mike McCarthy this year was what he said about this game. He's openly and honestly said he did not know how the Cowboys were going to play against Washington. And I think some coaches might, hold on to that or internalize that, but I think it's noteworthy that Mike McCarthy was honest in that sense. And so obviously the Cowboys didn't play well. They got destroyed by Washington on Thanksgiving. They fell to 3-8, and it seemed like the season was over. They had a game that was originally at the time scheduled for a week later against the Baltimore Ravens. Obviously, due to the Ravens' COVID issues, that game got pushed back almost an entirely extra week. And as a result, the Cowboys went to Baltimore. Dez Bryant did not play due to COVID issues. Again, just a crazy season we've all experienced. And the Cowboys fell to 3-9. So at this point, leadership was really, obviously being questioned. And back on October 20th, actually, was the report from NFL Network that players, were not pleased with Mike McCarthy and his staff, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so I think that Mike McCarthy deserves some credit for the leadership that was displayed. We obviously heard about the watermelon smashing against the Vikings. And I choose this point to talk about this because it should be said that the opponents here are subpar. But the Cowboys, with all the reason in the world to quit and lie down, did not. In fact, the Cowboys reeled off 3 wins in a row after the NFL left them for dead. Does that mean that they have the best leaders in the world? No. Does that mean that they are totally worth absolutely believing in and betting on in 2021? No. But what it says is, we used to say forever that Jason Garrett, who, by the way, the Los Angeles Chargers apparently want to interview for their head coaching vacancy. I don't know why you would do that to Justin Herbert, but I digress. Jason Garrett's hallmark quality as the Dallas Cowboys head coach was that the team and the players never quit on him, ultimately. I mean, they obviously finally did at the very end of the 2019 season, but no matter what, when the going got tough, to use the proverbial phrase, Jason Garrett's Cowboys always responded. And I do think that we saw that here. I mean, the Cowboys were competitive throughout the month of December, which is not an easy thing to do in the NFL. Now, a lot of people obviously were kind of wondering, where did this come from? These obviously getting the easier games that were on their schedule. And so they made it competitive. Ultimately, you can certainly call out leadership for performing poorly on the road this past Sunday against the New York Giants with the season on the line. It was a 6-10 season. And I think, look, ultimately, the Cowboys were 2-3 when Dak Prescott got hurt. You rewind to 2015 when Tony Romo got hurt. The 2015 Dallas Cowboys without Tony Romo went 1-11. All right, 1-11. And so again, you do the math here. With Dak Prescott, the Cowboys were 2-3. They ultimately went 6-10. They went 4-7 without Dak Prescott. I mean, is that worth building and erecting a trophy or a statue for? No, obviously not. But it is definitely an improvement from what the Cowboys had entering their overall culture with Jason Garrett. Not to bag on Jason Garrett, but it is a fact. It is a true statement. And so I think leadership is fair to be questioned. I think leadership from the very top should be questioned. I think leadership on a player level should be questioned. I wrote recently at blogoftheboys.com about, we can only have the conversation so many times at this point. Jalen Smith celebrating at the wrong times. Jalen Smith, his comment about how if Jerry Jones isn't upset, then he's not upset, whatever. There is a culture issue. On some level, it's not the biggest issue, but there is a culture issue with the Dallas Cowboys that needs to be corrected. The great Bob Sturm has written about this a lot throughout the season. There was a lot of turnover. Mike McCarthy's first season with the Green Bay Packers was in 2006, and there was a lot of turnover between 2006 and 2010 when that organization finally won the Super Bowl. We all thought that this team was very talented, and that is true, I think, on paper and in some respects. However, it will take time for certain cultures to take hold. Certain players will certainly be part of that, but that change, it takes time, and injuries certainly don't help. So it is on to 2021 for the Dallas Cowboys. With regards to 2021, here are the teams that the Cowboys will be playing next season. At home, the Cowboys will, of course, play their division rivals, the Eagles, the Giants, and the Washington football team. This coming season, the Dallas Cowboys will host the Arizona Cardinals. They will also host the Las Vegas Raiders. They will host the Atlanta Falcons. They will host the Carolina Panthers, and they will host the Denver Broncos. You will recall the last time the Cowboys hosted the Broncos was one of the more epic games in AT&T Stadium's history. Cowboys Stadium at the time, Peyton Manning, Tony Romo, incredible duel. In fact, Peyton Manning announced today as a finalist for the 2021 Pro Football Hall of Fame class. as sure of a lock as there has ever been. But in 2021, the Cowboys will visit their division rivals, and in addition to that, they will visit the New Orleans Saints. They will visit the Los Angeles Chargers, so if Jason Garrett gets that job, watch out. They will also head to Minnesota. Maybe they'll have a Juicy Lucy up there. They'll visit the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, or Tampa Bay, whatever you want to call them. And my family and I, we try to do a road Cowboys game every year. This is certainly the one that we are angling for. The Dallas Cowboys will visit the Kansas City Chiefs in 2021. It will be very, very, very fun. I can promise you that. Hopefully fans are allowed back in stadiums by then. With regards to next season, there has been discussion about a 17th game in the NFL, and obviously for every team. Last week, Albert Breer from the MMQB reported that this game for every team will come from a division on the opposite conference. So for the Cowboys, who are in the NFC, it will come from an AFC division, and it will rotate. So starting in 2021, again, this is per the MMQB's Albert Breer, the NFC East will play the AFC East, and each team will play the team that finished in the same place as them in their division in the previous season. To give you an example here, the Dallas Cowboys finished in third place in the NFC East. The New England Patriots finished in third place in the AFC East. So if everything follows that line of logic that Albert Breer laid out, the Dallas Cowboys' 17th game will come against the New England Patriots. Whether that game is home or away for the Cowboys remains to be seen. Albert Breer's report did also note that every year it will alternate, where one year the AFC will get the extra home game and the next year the NFC, and vice versa. We will likely know the full details on this after some owners' meetings come March. But if you were wondering, it's probably going to come against the New England Patriots. But I mentioned earlier the Dallas Cowboys have the 10th overall pick in the 2021 NFL Draft. Here is the top 10 as we are looking at it right now. The Jacksonville Jaguars and New York Jets with the first and second overall picks. There it's going to be Trevor Lawrence and Justin Fields, I think, in all likelihood. Mekhi Becton could go here. Really depends on how the Jets and their new coach evaluate their roster, whether they want to keep Sam Darnold, et cetera, et cetera. But Trevor Lawrence, the undisputed number one overall pick. And then, the Jets will do whatever they want to do. The Houston Texans earned the third overall pick, but the Miami Dolphins will be taking it thanks to Laramie Tunsil. The Atlanta Falcons picking at number 4 overall. The Cincinnati Bengals at 5 overall. The Philadelphia Eagles, because of Doug Peterson's antics on Sunday Night Football, will have the 6th overall pick. I think this is a really interesting spot to watch because we all know that the Philadelphia Eagles had a lot of love for CeeDee Lamb last year. They obviously did not come away with him, and while they did draft Jalen Reagor, I think this is a spot to watch maybe Jamar Chase from LSU, or we actually started this stream right after the Heisman Trophy ceremony. A big congratulations to Alabama's Devonta Smith. Maybe the Philadelphia Eagles want a Heisman Trophy winning wide receiver. That would not be a lot of fun, but it is a possibility nonetheless. The Detroit Lions will have the 7th overall pick. The Carolina Panthers are at 8. The Denver Broncos are 9th overall, and the Dallas Cowboys will be picking at 10th. So what is important, I think, to note here when it comes to the top 10 where the Dallas Cowboys are in the 2021 NFL draft order, there are a lot of candidates for quarterback selections, and that's what we want. We want to push all the non-quarterbacks down. The Jaguars are going to take a quarterback, obviously. The Jets are a team that could take a quarterback, and then I think you have some questionable places. We know, obviously, at 3, the Miami Dolphins have Tua Tagovailoa. They're not taking a quarterback. I know that was thrown out as a discussion point, but that's not happening. The Cincinnati Bengals took last year's Heisman Trophy winner with last year's number 1 overall pick and Joe Burrow. They're not taking a quarterback. The Philadelphia Eagles, I mean, that is such a fascinating story to watch. I don't think that happens, but if they, I think we all think that the Eagles are moving on from Carson Wentz. That is a 100%, it feels like a 100% certainty. What is not as certain is that Jalen Hurts is the guy. And so if they are not, convinced of that, then maybe they do feel like it's worth drafting a, Trey Lance or a Zach Wilson or a Kyle Trask, whatever the case may be. But that is a potential spot. And then I think, you look at it, the Carolina Panthers are a quarterback needy team. Teddy Bridgewater is not a long-term answer there. Joe Brady, their offensive coordinator, has been interviewing for head coaching gigs, but maybe he wants a quarterback to work with in Carolina. I think the Denver Broncos could be in line for a quarterback. I mean, Drew Lock has not necessarily proven to be somebody that can be relied on. And so maybe, the Denver Broncos are looking for a new general manager, as are the Carolina Panthers. So that is something to watch as well. The other 2 teams I think that could be in the quarterback market, the Atlanta Falcons and Detroit Lions, who each have a Matt under center. And there has been talk that the Falcons would move on from Matt Ryan and the Lions move on from Matt Stafford. If either or both of those teams do that, then obviously those teams are in the market for a quarterback as well. That's fine. That's great. push them all down. We want all the skill players, all the defensive players, get them all the way down to 10 overall. That way the Cowboys can have options, and maybe they can even trade back. And maybe they'll trade back from picks 11 through 18. In case you are curious, we do not know picks 19 through 32 because the playoffs still have to happen, but 11 through 18 have been finalized. The New York Giants, who are very salty about what Doug Peterson did on Sunday Night Football. The 49ers at 12. The Los Angeles Chargers will find help for Justin Herbert at 13. The Minnesota Vikings right after them. The New England Patriots, who the Cowboys will play if there's a 17th game, at 15 overall. The Cardinals at 16. The Vegas Raiders at 17 overall. By the way, shout out to friend of the show, Marcus Mosier. I did not even fully realize this. Do you know that Jason Witten had 69 receiving yards in 2020 for the Raiders? That's like not in a game, like all year. 16 games. 69 receiving yards. Anyway, the Miami Dolphins will use their earned pick, the 18th overall pick. That is a fun franchise to watch to see what they are going to look like in the future. But that about does it for our season review show. It was certainly a year and a season worth forgetting for the Dallas Cowboys, but I do think there were high points. I think there were things to celebrate, and I think there were a lot of things that we learned, and I think that there are a lot of things to be excited about. Again, Kellen Moore is going to return to this team. In all likelihood, Dak Prescott is going to return to this team. In all likelihood, some combination of Tyron Smith or Lyle Collins are going to return to this team. And so in all likelihood, again, this offense should be one of the NFL's more formidable ones next season. The defense needs a dramatic amount of help. And so hopefully the Cowboys spend the offseason putting that help in, whether it's free agency, whether it's the draft. We all want to see that, and we all want to see them have success. We aren't going anywhere at Blogging the Boys. You can check out bloggingtheboys.com every day for discussions and articles pertaining to the Dallas Cowboys. You can subscribe right here to the Blogging the Boys YouTube channel, where we will continue to have live streams, discussions, recaps, film reviews, all that jazz. We will be here on Sunday night, actually, following this week's playoff action to talk about the playoff wins and certainly the Cowboys and the news that has happened. You can also subscribe to the Blogging the Boys podcast network, where we have a variety of shows for you to listen from. These shows have different hosts, different guests, so you can get a whole different array of opinions when it comes to America's team. Mondays and Fridays for now offer you Girls Talking Boys. Tuesdays for now, the 750. Wednesdays, Talking the Star, aka Talking the Draft. Thursdays, Broadcasting the Boys. And on Saturday, we offer you an entirely Spanish-spoken show in Cowboys Oi. I say for now, we are in the midst of sort of retooling and kind of tinkering with our podcast schedule. We will still offer you a show every single day, but it's the offseason, people's plans change and whatnot, so we'll have a full formalized plan for you soon enough. For now, we bid you adieu. For now, we hope that your weekend and your week are fantastic. We hope that you got your Christmas decorations down, and we hope that you have the best day ever. You know why? Because you deserve it. We will see you next time. We love you all.
Talking the Boys.